Joining me for more on the mission is Keith Cowing. He is the editor of NASAWatch.com and an astrobiologist. Keith, it's always fascinating to talk with you. As we saw, we had a successful launch of this mission. Good news there. It's going to take 7 years, this mission. Why, first of all, that long?
Well, you can either get a giant rocket and send something somewhere very fast, or in this case, you have an ion propulsion system, which is a very gentle thing that thrusts continuously. But in order to use the smaller rockets that we have, you loop them around the planets. And first you have to throw it out, it comes back, it goes around the Earth. Then it goes around Venus a couple times to speed up, and then it goes to Mercury. But then you have to do the same thing to slow it down, because as you get closer to the sun, it gets harder to slow down. So it becomes like a billiard game in 3 dimensions that you play over the course of 7 years, in essence.
Not an easy process, is it?
No, and as a matter of fact, the probe is named after an Italian scientist who really came up with the trajectory that was used the first time this was done back in the 1970s. So it's sort of fitting that the complex geometry has a representation of the namesake of the spacecraft.
And on that topic, this mission is said to be one of the most technically challenging. I read it requires more energy to reach Mercury than even the farthest planet, Pluto. That is just amazing to us.
Well, it is, and it's sort of, because you're orbiting close to the sun, as I mentioned, a lot of this is speed up, then slow down. And again, if you carried all this propellant with you, you'd have a lot more expensive, bigger rocket and so forth. But the spacecraft will be doing things on the way. Every time it goes by the Earth, it goes by Venus, it goes by Mercury, it will be, taking a look at things. So it's not as if it's just sort of, riding around the solar system.
And what do scientists hope to learn from this mission, and how could that apply to us here on Earth?
Well, Mercury is one of 4 planets close to the sun. They're called terrestrial planets. And Earth and Venus and Mars tend to be built similar. You have a small iron core and then all this rock around it. Mercury's the other way around. It's almost it's a big iron ball with a little bit of rock around it. And when you put the theories together as to how these planets might have formed, you get the idea of how Earth and Venus and Mars were formed, but you look at Mercury and say, no, wait a minute, it shouldn't be that way. Some people think that early in its history it was hit by another planet, which is how our moon was formed, when something hit the Earth. Others say that as it was forming, because the pressure from the sun prevented these rocky materials from getting on the surface. No one's quite sure which is which. The results that have come back from previous spacecraft have sort of supported both ideas. So that's where they're going back.
And there's a lot of mystery behind this planet that we don't know much about.
It is. It's weird. It is a weird planet. In some places, it's the hottest planet in the solar system, but there's actually ice at the poles. So in some cases, it's the coldest place in the solar system, all in one planet.
That's really interesting to me when you told me that, because Mercury is so close to the sun, and yet there are these ice patches.
You would think, but again, because the planet is inclined a little bit to the sun, parts of the poles never get sunlight. So water, comets can crash there. Same thing on the moon. We've discovered that there's ice on the surface at the poles of the moon. So again, it's kind of interesting. It's sort of like one of those desserts that's cold on the inside, and you heat it on the outside, and it's got a little bit of everything for everybody.
It's just fascinating stuff. Thank you so much for coming in and giving us your perspective. Keith Cowing of NASAWatch.com. Thanks so much.
Thank you.